This game swings wildly. I've now played it 3 times, and it's been the same. Now, to be fair, it's been the same modules every time I've played it. I have only played the Intruders at Wingard Cottage. This is now the second time I've played with Ginny as my final girl, and I played with what's the other final girl in this set? Ava, I think is her name. I played with her once. I won with Ava the first time I tried. I got absolutely demolished in the first game tonight as Ginny. There's Ava. Then just smoked them in that game, the second game as Ginny tonight. So I've played this set of stuff for Final Girl to death at this point. The major selling point of this whole system is the fact that it is a system. It's modular. You can pick up. Oh, and something I should show off that I think is really cool about this game. These game boards are the covers for the box for that feature. So this just snaps right on there. It's got little magnets to hold it into place. I think that's really clever. And then even though like you take it off, it's just a cover. This stuff all still stays in there because you've got a nice little plastic lock thing that locks that into place. You got the killer on one side, and you've got the location on the other side. For every one of these feature film modules, you do have to have the core box as well in order to play. This runs you $20. Each feature film will run you another $20. So it's a $40 solo game to play it at a minimum. People are absolutely raving about this game, and I have only played this particular feature film. You can mix and match too. You can load mix a killer from one feature film with a location from another, and that'll change up what terror cards you're dealing with depending on the location and the killer. Events come from the location, items come from the location, and then there's different dark powers and different finale cards for the killers, depending on which killer you're playing with. There's also special items that you can mix in once you have won with one of the final girls. There's these little envelopes that say, for Ginny's eyes only, or for Ava's eyes only. Do not open until you have survived a game with Ginny. Then you can open this up, and it's got a little rule thing for Ginny's sawed-off shotgun. This item may only be used when Ginny is chosen as the final girl. So after you've beaten the game with Ginny, you can shuffle this in to your item deck for future games when you play with Ginny again to have access to this specific weapon in other games. So there's a little bit of replay value there. I do think there's a lot going on with this game that I feel like, at least on the couple games that I've won it, I feel like there's a whole lot going on that is not, that feels superfluous. I barely go after items. I went after one item in this game tonight because just the RNG on it just looked like, oh, look at that. I can automatically go craft a badass nail bat and just demolish these killers with that one item. But as soon as I got that nail bat, I didn't care about any other items. So it was like instantaneous, done. When I played by myself, like not on stream, the first game, I started out thinking I was going to go after items, and then every item I found was worthless, so I just punched them to death, and I won. I'm rolling 2 dice. I'm gonna smack this b****. I'm using my knife to do it. God damn it, I'm not doing anything. I don't have the cards to discard to turn that into a success. I'm screwed. This was a dumb play. I lose 1 health, horror level goes up 1, and I have to stop taking any actions. The RNG swings are massive because this game that I just won and the one that I won the other night by myself, there weren't a lot of victims on the board. So the killers didn't have a lot of opportunities to crank up this bloodlust meter and thus crank up the horror meter. That game that I played, the first game I played tonight, there were victims all over the map at the start of the game, and that meant they cranked up the bloodlust and the horror very quickly. And this is a game where that once it starts spiraling out of control, there's no getting it back. You're just done. So that is, I think, my one criticism of this game is just how wildly it swings in terms of the difficulty curve. Just based on the RNG, like the randomness. I feel like they probably could have done a little bit better job of balancing those setup cards. Because the setup is where you're determining where all of the victims start on the board. There were way more victims at the start of the game, my first game tonight, and that swung things wildly in another direction compared to the second game tonight. And then I want to go scroll through the chat and see what you guys have to say about this game. Because, yeah, you guys all picked that I was going to crush the killers that game, and you were right. So congratulations. Okay. Scrolling up. New game plus weapons. Yeah, exactly. It looked cool, but there were times it would make me really nervous, and gosh, it'd be hard not to miss a step. You know, I would say that this is not a game that is for the faint of heart. Like, this is a solo game that I think you need to be relatively experienced at playing board games to tackle this one. I think if you're a relatively new board gamer, this is going to be there's enough fiddliness to it that you might struggle a little bit. So I think that's a fair criticism, that it's easy to miss stuff. Even somebody who's played a ton of board games, there were a lot of times tonight where I was like, oh right, I forgot to do that. Let me do that really quick. And I punished myself for it a couple times, and I also did myself a favor as a result of it a couple times. Hi! Remember me? It's your old pal, Nailbat. Weak attack. That's all I need to finish you off, you son of a... 3 dice coming your way in the shape of a bat with a bunch of nails sticking out of it. You know what? I only need to turn one of those into a success. I will discard my walk and my other walk. 1 success becomes 1, 2, 3 damage, and he's only got 2 health. He's out of there. 1 victory and 1 crushing defeat. One thing that I think is cool about this, though, I feel like, I haven't done it, but I feel like you could play this game with a significant other or with a couple of friends, as long as you're relatively like-minded, as a co-op game, and just kind of work your way through it collectively. I don't think you necessarily need to play it as a strictly solo game. It is a solo game, and it is designed to be played solo, and you absolutely can play it solo. I think if you played it with a friend or something, or maybe with a significant other, I think it could still be a lot of fun. I think this would work as like a couples game or something. Rina Hayashi says it's like you're the player character and the GM at the same time. Yeah, very true. I love that, the replay value without having to buy another edition. Yeah, with the new game plus weapons. For sure. I played this 3 times, and it was, while the difficulty swung wildly from one game to the next, it was a very different game every time I played it, even with just the same feature film components. So I think I think there's a lot of replay value in it, even if you're not adding the additional module. The setup alone would definitely put me off from solo play. It looks like so many moving parts, but I do think cooperative strategizing would be a lot of fun on this one. Yeah, I almost feel like it would be better with 2 or 3 people collectively making the choices, because you can keep each other honest on like, oh hey, don't forget we need to do this, don't forget we need to do that, and you can also collaboratively try and come up with a plan and everything, as long as you're all relatively easygoing, like-minded people. If you're playing with somebody who's like really stuck in their ways, that's not going to work on this type of co-op game. I think that's kind of any co-op board game, but something worth considering. Agreed, especially when choosing ambiguity, it'd be good to run that by another person. Yeah, because I do love that concept in this rule book, the ambiguity rule. For those who are just watching just the review on this game on YouTube later, there's a rule in the rule book towards the end here about game ambiguity, because this whole system is modular, and you can buy multiple feature film modules that give you different options for different killers and different locations and different final girls to play as. That means that there's a whole lot of different moving parts to this, like different pieces that you put together to form a puzzle of a board game. There's a whole lot of different interactions that are not accounted for in the rule book, or rule books, plural, since there's a rule book for each individual killer and location, rule sheet really, and the core game rule book. But there's a little rule about game ambiguity where it's just like, listen, because of the fact that there's going to be a ton of stuff that isn't accounted for in the rule book, if there's ever ambiguity, you get 3 choices for how to resolve that. Either the rule of infinite evil, resolve it in such a way that results in the worst outcome for you. The rule of abject realism, resolve it in the way that results in the most realistic or thematic outcome. Or the rule of never-ending hilarity, resolve it in the way that results in the funniest outcome. And the rulebook recommends you choose one of those at the start of your game, so that anytime any ambiguous situations come up, you bear in mind what's going to be the worst outcome for me, or what's going to be the most realistic outcome, or what's going to be the funniest. Our rule of thumb tonight on ambiguity is never-ending hilarity. Is it funnier if he goes away from me over to the lakefront, meaning that I'm going to have to chase him down at some point? Or is it funnier if he goes into the house and then I can't activate my home security card? But I think that's a really cool thing to include in the rulebook. I do love the modular concept for a system. $40 is a totally reasonable entry-level price for a game, and then to be able to add on for $20 a pop to give yourself, you know, another killer and another location and 2 more final girls to choose from. That's basically a whole new game for every $20, plus the ability to mix and match with everything you already have. So I think that's really cool. I think the system is very clever. I think the theme is great. I think all of the components are of a great quality. I love this use, like just really maximizing the use of components, being able to just peel off a piece of the box and that's part of your game board. I love all of that. I think it's a very clever solo game. I don't play a lot of solo board games, and this definitely works as a solo board game. My one critique of this game is how wildly the difficulty swings from one game to the next. So I think the one thing that I might say is, if you're thinking about checking out Final Girl and trying something, first off, I would go for one of the season 1 feature films to start with. I would not start with The Intruders at Wingard Cottage like I did. I think I would start with The Butcher at camp whatever it's called. not Crystal Lake. It looks like the one that's like Friday the 13th. That one, from what I have now learned since purchasing this, that one does not add any additional mechanics. So the extra rule sheets for the location and the killer just say there's nothing special, meaning you only need to worry about the core rule book and nothing else. I think I would start with something like that, one of the simpler feature film modules. That's the first note I would have. And then the second note I would have is play it more than once. If you play it once and you feel like it was too easy, try again, see what happens on the second game. If you play it once and you get absolutely demolished, try it again and see what happens on the second game. Because as I have found in my 3 plays of this, that difficulty just swings crazily. But it's a really fun, really interesting system, and I'm looking forward to seeing what else comes from Final Girl. It's wildly popular, so it's not going away anytime soon. Hey, thanks for hanging out. If you want to spend more time with us, do us a favor. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and most importantly, head on over to twitch.tv/BNB Tabletop and give us a follow there. We play board games live every Sunday night at 5 p.m. Pacific Time on a show we call The Board and Barrel. And we like to keep things interactive. You guys can influence what happens throughout the course of a game with our Buff and Nerf house rules. You can also make predictions on how things are going to pan out, play virtual bingo for a chance to win a free board game of your own, and heckle us and stuff from the chat. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you Sunday night.